As day 35 of the consecutive triple-digit heat winds down, a lot of people who work outdoors are heading home right now. But some construction projects, they go on 24 hours a day. At the DFW Connector project in Grapevine, the crews there stay hydrated and out of the heat as much as possible. Water is available to the men all day long, and the foremen have to check on their crews to make sure they're drinking enough of that water. 4,000 to 6,000 pounds of ice are delivered there each and every day, along with fruit at night and again in the morning for extra hydration. The work hours have also changed. The day shift now arrives at 5:30 in the morning instead of 7, so they can get to time to work before the sun rises.
When they actually get to work, we make sure that they have adequate hydration. One of the major things that we're doing is we're asking our crews to start earlier. We're also making sure that all construction with this record heat is now wrapped up by 2:30 in the afternoon.
There are also mandatory shade areas placed throughout the construction zone to make sure workers have somewhere to go when they take a break. And those breaks are mandatory at least twice a day. So joining me now in the studio is an attorney, Carrie Hoffman, a labor and employment attorney with Gardner, Wynn, and Sewell in Dallas. Thanks for coming on by.
Sure.
So just tell me a little bit about kind of measures that companies have to take in heat like this. The stuff that they're doing up at the Connector project sounds like a good idea. Is that the sort of things that people need to be doing?
Those are exactly the sort of things that employers need to do. They need to provide water. They need to look at alternate work schedules, shade, misting. They need to talk to their employees about what kind of clothing to wear, sort of counterintuitive, long sleeves, long pants, cotton material. Maybe a hat to keep their faces out of the sun as much as possible, and look at options, misting, fans, those kinds of things, as many breaks as they can provide, and talk to them about what kind of food and drink to intake before and after shift.
All good ideas. Are they required? What kind of legal requirements do they have?
Sure. OSHA does not have specific requirements, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. All you have to do is provide a safe work environment, but when it's 100+ degrees and your job's outside, you have to take the precautions necessary to make sure your employees aren't suffering from heat exhaustion.
And yet at the same time, I imagine that workers and employers alike have to realize that in temperatures this high, it's just going to be tough to keep people cool.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to keep people cool. I think the best you can do is provide them the means to be comfortable as much as possible in the heat, and that means not enforcing mandatory breaks of only 15 minutes every X number of hours, but letting people take breaks as they need them. Training your supervisors to really look for signs of heat stress and heat exhaustion and force people to take time away from the heat and get a water break when they need it.
You must hear from a lot of workers working in this kind of heat at this time of year. What are the most common complaints that you hear from workers and from companies for that matter?
Sure. I mean, employers, and anytime we have extreme weather, when we had snow conditions and when we have these kinds of heat, are concerned about what it is they have to do to make sure their employees are at work when they're supposed to be at work, and that they're providing the appropriate work environment. And of course, from an employee standpoint, nobody wants to spend 8 hours a day in 100+ degree heat. They want to provide as much shelter to themselves as they can. And so there are lots of complaints and lots of need for employers to address those issues to make sure their employees are safe.
So what can a worker do if he or she finds themselves that I just can't tolerate this heat any longer, and apparently you're not doing enough to keep me hydrated or keep me safe? I mean, what kind of legal protections do they have?
An employee should go to OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and raise a complaint, because an employer has an obligation to provide a safe work environment for all of their employees, no matter what those working conditions are. So if they feel like they're in extreme heat and their employer isn't taking precautions, they should make a complaint to OSHA and let OSHA investigate.
Best advice on the work sites: lots of water, misters, shade, all the rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Carrie, thanks for joining us. I appreciate your insight. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming on.